Beal, Booker, Eubanks, the collision, knock away, Holiday.
Holiday is everywhere defensively.
Here comes Durant, sidestepping Pritchard to put it up and in.
Welcome back to your Valley Sports Plugs Phoenix Suns recap for March 7th through March 20th, 2024. I'm Chris Patrick. That's Michael Benjamin, and we're here to break it down for you. We start this last stretch at home, taking on the Toronto Raptors. Grayson Allen poured in 7 3-pointers in the first quarter, and that set a franchise record, propelling the Suns to an early 39-25 point lead at the end of the first, and the Suns never trailed in this game. Bradley Beal had 20 points and 8 assists. Durant even had a good night shooting as well, going 11 of 19 from the field, getting it all done without Devin Booker in the lineup, and the win 120-113 for the Phoenix Suns. Next, the Boston Celtics came into town. This was the first of 2 games against the Celtics on this stretch. Kevin Durant had an impressive 45 points on 18 of 26 shooting. Suns did play hard in this one, despite some struggles early, but it just wasn't enough to get the Suns over the hump. The Boston Celtics get the win 117-107 over the Suns. After that, we hit the road for a little trip out east, taking on the Cleveland Cavaliers. Devin Booker did make his return for the Suns in this one, coming off the right ankle sprain, and played a large part in the Suns' second half rally. The Cavaliers were able to keep this one close despite not having star Donovan Mitchell on the floor. Forwards Evan Mobley and Max Strus were also out for the Cavs. And after the game, Kevin Durant said, "Book's communication has been on point, always, but his intangibles are what we missed the most. It's good to have him out there with his talents, and I'm glad he was able to get his feet wet in a tight game too." The Suns got this win 117-111, and we start a bit of a back and forth cycle, getting a win, then a loss, now another win. So then we head over to Boston for our second matchup with the Celtics. Although having Devin Booker back for this game, the outcome was the same. It was close in the first half. The score was 65-60 at the break, but the Celtics came out strong in the third quarter, outscoring the Suns by 12 points, and Phoenix was never able to recover despite 4 out of 5 starters scoring 20-plus points. And Mike, the pattern continues. Win one, lose one. The Suns continue this road trip and head out to Charlotte for a matchup with the Hornets, and what should have been an easy win against a struggling Hornets team. Devin Booker led the attack for Phoenix with 21 points and 11 assists. Yusuf Nurkic stays hot, dropping 13 points and had 21 rebounds. Suns came out of the half on a mission and put up 38 points in the quarter, taking a commanding 92-67 lead into the fourth. And despite cooling off a bit in the fourth, being outscored by 14 points, the Suns were still able to get the win over Charlotte 107-96. And the last leg of this road trip saw us heading over to Milwaukee to take on the dreaded Bucks. But the stage was set. The Suns had a chance to steal a win against one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference, with star Giannis Antetokounmpo out with a left hamstring injury, just his 4th missed game of the season. But unfortunately, they still have Damian Lillard, who was there to pick up some of the slack, pouring in 31 points to go along with his 16 assists. It didn't help that forward Chris Middleton added 22 points for Milwaukee. It was his first game back after missing 16 with a sprained left ankle. Beal had 28 for the Suns, Grayson Allen 25, and Booker 23, but Durant was almost not even present, scoring only 11 points on 41 minutes of work. Phoenix trailed 109-94 after 3 quarters, but closed within 7 points on a lay-in by Brad Beal with 6 minutes and 17 seconds left. Unfortunately, they weren't able to get it any closer than that, and the final score was 140-129. The Bucks getting the win over the Suns. And the pattern continues. We win one, we lose one. Now, Wednesday night, we find ourselves back at home taking on the Philadelphia 76ers. It was a hard-fought game for the Suns, but they were able to get the win over a Joel Embiid-less Philadelphia team. Hopefully, they can break the win one, lose one cycle soon with a win against Atlanta. This team is going to have to start stacking wins eventually if they want to be a serious playoff contender. But Mike, I got to know what you've been seeing and thinking about this Suns team the last 2 weeks.
Chris, I just got to be honest with the people right now. I'm really stuck between a rock and a hard place when it comes to this Phoenix Suns team. If you really think about it, 3 of the losses are against the top 2 teams in the East. But man, to allow these teams to shoot the way they did, Celtics shoot 25 of 50 from 3 on March 14th. and the Bucks shoot 24-41 on the 17th, including 19 threes in the first half. It's kind of crazy. And obviously, when it comes down to the NBA game, it can be anybody's night, any day, right? But the Suns have started to catch some breaks with some big name pieces not being available, with Cleveland and Donovan Mitchell being out, and Milwaukee and Giannis not playing on Sunday as well. But it doesn't seem like they're taking full advantage of these opportunities right now. But before we look at some more negatives, I do got to look at some bright spots. Obviously, I think he's starting to cement himself as the Suns MVP this year. It's Grayson Allen. I mean, 18.2 points, 3 assists, 2.8 rebounds. You touched on it. 8 total threes against Toronto. He shot 88% in Boston and dropped 25 against the Bucks as well. Kevin Durant had a huge surge, scoring over 35 in the first 3 of this recap, including being what seemed like the only provider for the Suns with 45 points in that first loss to Boston with no Booker. But the last 3, he has fallen off. I think the amount of minutes, they've just been ridiculous for KD, and they might be starting to catch up to him, which is kind of scary for us. But Devin Booker, he comes back from the ankle sprain, but he's just still trying to get in rhythm, it seems like, the past 5 games. 23.5 points, 7.8 assists, and 5.8 rebounds. But Chris, I think the biggest thing for me right now too is Brad Beal. He just seems like the odd man out, right? Like, he has nice numbers, 22.3 points, 6.2 assists, 3.5 rebounds, shooting pretty well as well, 57% from the field, 38 from 3 in the past 7. But I'm just having a hard time finding where he really pushes the needle for this team, because it just seems like his lapses on defense and the inopportune times that he turns the ball over are just really starting to show more than the positives he's bringing, unfortunately. And the last guy I got to touch on right now, Royce O'Neal. I know, the newest guy in the room, either than Isaiah Thomas, but he struggled for a 4-game stretch, including offers in Cleveland and Boston. That's just not going to get it done. Overall for this team, it's the same old song and dance, right? Not enough bench production, only 16 points per game. Turnovers continue to be an issue, 13 plus per game. I think that the amount of threes attempted per game are becoming an issue as well, only 33. And you have a 3-game stretch where you shoot under 70% from the foul line. All of these kind of things start to build up and see where we're at, right? With the wishy-washy, back and forth, like we've been talking about. But the biggest thing right now is this team is built to score, not to defend. And if I were to tell you, Chris, the Suns scored 129 points. They shot 59% from the field, 42 from 3, out-rebounded the opponent, only turned the ball over 3 times. You'd think that was a dub, right? But then they just are catching some tough breaks right now with teams going nuclear, and the lack of adjustments to the perimeter defense that's doing it to them themselves. It just seems like it's been a long time removed from our 7-game win streak in mid-January, and the clock is just beyond ticking now. It's brutal down the stretch. We know this, but this team has to at least show they are ready to compete with these top seeds like Denver, OKC, and New Orleans, to instill confidence in us, because they damn sure didn't do that against Boston and Milwaukee. And that's all I've got right now, Chris.
All right, Mike, I'm going to risk sounding like a broken record. And it just seems like we come on here every 2 weeks and it's all the same issues. It's the turnovers, it's the lack of defense, it's the inconsistent play. And none of these issues are being addressed. We're still relying way too much on a 35-year-old Kevin Durant. He's playing 40 plus minutes per night, it seems like these days. And sometimes, more often than not these days, they're not able to get it done. Like you say, the wishy-washiness, the win one, lose one cycle I kept mentioning. It's that inconsistency. I will double down that they absolutely need to start stacking some wins if they want to be taken seriously. Yeah, there are some bright spots. Grayson Allen has been great. You're right. He's continued to show that he's a stud, pouring in those threes, being a guy that we can rely on to swing the ball to. But Mike, we're not beating any good teams. all the wins we got are against teams we should be beating, and the challenging teams that we want to see Phoenix beating are running away with it, and we aren't even sniffing a victory in those games. They really need to get a win. These next 3 games against Atlanta and then 2 against the Spurs. I think a 3-game win streak, 4-game win streak will go a long way in giving this Suns team some confidence as well as some momentum going forward. Really, the 6th seed should be the goal right now if we're serious about making a run this year. And Mike, there's only 14 games left in the season. I'm not super confident at this point in time, but hopefully in 2 weeks, I'll be looking back and laughing about it with a more positive tone in our next recap. But Mike, speaking of the next 2 weeks, what are we looking at for this Phoenix Suns team?
All right, Chris, we've got one more at home as Atlanta heads to Phoenix with no Trae Young. And then the Suns will head on a 5-game road trip, starting with a back-to-back in the Alamo against Wemby and the Spurs. And after that, it's back to Denver to try and clutch out another one in the Mile High. Then we'll head to OKC and try and catch redemption. And to finish it off, we're going to New Orleans as the Suns look to move up and overtake the Pelicans in the standings. Lots of tough tests and plenty of opportunities for the Suns to prove they are ready and willing to be battle-tested in this tough Western Conference.
You already know we're going to keep bringing you a recap of the Phoenix Suns every 2 weeks the rest of the season. So make sure you subscribe right here on YouTube and set those notifications so you can stay up to date with all of the Valley Sports and Phoenix Suns action. For Michael Benjamin, I'm Chris Patrick, and we'll see you next time. Peace.